Welcome everyone. Again, we're excited to have you back here on another weekly Wednesday webinar. As always, these are your familiar faces. We have another fun topic for you all this evening or afternoon, depending on where you are, right? I know Carrie, she was just telling us it's 4:58, almost 5 over there in the Central Time. And I do know we have a lot of our members that actually tune in from the West Coast. So if you are in the West Coast, good afternoon. If you're in the East, good evening, early evening. We're so happy and delighted to have you back here on another weekly Wednesday webinar. Today's topic is building financial freedom. We are going to ask everyone to um, a couple of questions actually early into the presentation. So all your participation will be lovely to have. So again, we encourage you all to use the chat feature. And at the same time, if you have any question during this presentation, do not forget to submit your questions using the Q&A or again, stay on the chat. So we will be more than happy to read your questions at the end and answer all your questions before we let you go this evening. So again, my name is Milton and I'm the Membership Development Officer here for the credit union. And as you can see, the familiar face who does uh, the intros, like not the intros, but the welcome. He's not in today. And I believe he's going to be up for one more week, but then he will be back right after that. So, and that is, I'm referring to Eddie, Mr. USSFCU. He is not with us this evening, but again, he will be back in about a week and a half or so. So, for those that may wonder where he went, he's actually around. He's just taking some time, which is well deserved, by the way. But again, with that being said, get comfortable. We have a fun webinar for you all this evening. And let me go ahead and start with the intros. As I stated, familiar faces. This is actually the some of the original faces that began this weekly Wednesday webinar. So I'm gonna start with the person in charge of putting all this content for us, the one that actually I know she spends a lot of late nights making sure she does the research, gets all the graphics, everything ready for us so that we actually look great. But it's because of her, and that is none other than Carrie Lazar, who is also going to be reading your questions at the end of the presentation. So again, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A feature, and she will be more than happy to read those questions, and we're going to do our best answering them at the end of the presentation. And with that being said, the person leading the presentation this evening is none other than Ms. Kim Friendly, my right hand from the membership development team. She's going to be taking you on a lovely, lovely topic that I think it's everyone on this college probably can relate to. So, without any more delays, Ms. Friendly, let's take it away.
Thank you so much, Milton and Carrie, and welcome. Happy Wednesday. Happy July 1st. We're going to talk all about building financial freedom, like Milton stated earlier, small steps, more choices. So let's go ahead and get started. What does financial freedom mean to you? You can put it in the chat if you feel comfortable. Financial freedom, it can mean something different, right, to each one of us. But before we define it, take a minute, take a moment to think about what it means in your own life. And again, if you feel comfortable, put in the chat, what was the first thing that came to your mind? What does financial freedom mean to you? Does it mean feeling maybe less stress when bills are due, being prepared for an unexpected expense, which we all know it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Having the flexibility to be able to change jobs if you need to, maybe help a family member. What about buying a home or retiring or pursuing some type of personal goal? There is no single account balance or income level that defines financial freedom. At its very core, it's all about just creating greater stability, maybe giving you more flexibility and choice with your money. So did anybody at all put anything in the chat about what financial freedom means to you?
I got
I would love to know.
I got a couple, Kim. So we've got no debt, time and leisure,
Love it.
peace of mind,
Yes.
feeling less stress when paying bills, and being
Mhm.
able to help out my children. Working because I have to, or because I want to, not because I have to, and giving generously without worry.
You guys, thank you so much for participating. I agree with all of those. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, Today is actually National Financial Freedom Day. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. July 1st is National Financial Freedom Day. So this was a really good time for us to have this conversation with you. And with the 4th of July, what is it, just a couple days away on Saturday, as our nation celebrates its 250th anniversary, the timing just felt kind of meaningful. So, again, I want to thank each one of you for your engagement and for sharing. It means the world to us. So, financial freedom usually develops in stages. Most people do not move from, let's say, financial stress to complete independence all at once, right? It's something that happens over time. The first stage is stability. It really is. It's being able to cover essential expenses consistently. From there, security comes from building your savings, your emergency savings, reducing costly debt. Consistency means developing routines, that help you save, help you plan regularly, even when the amounts are small. And then over time, those habits can support growth, right? Through retirement savings. Maybe you have investments, home equity in your home or other long-term assets. The final stage is flexibility, having enough financial strength to make choices with less pressure. This is the path we'll follow today. We're going to move through each stage of the ladder and looking at the practical steps that can actually help us make progress along the way. It's all about small steps, making process, consistently moving forward, and being ready when an obstacle happens, which we all know will. So let's start with stability. Like I said before, and I'm going to say it again, financial freedom begins with stability. Before we can focus on larger goals, long-term growth, or greater flexibility, we need a clear picture of where we are right at this moment, today. So that means, understanding what influence our financial choices, where our money is going, whether there's enough room, right, between income and expenses to support the priorities that are going to matter most to us. Stability does not mean everything is perfect. It means just day-to-day finances feeling more manageable, essential expenses being covered, and we are making choices with greater awareness, right? And intention. It really does matter. So the way we use money is shaped by more than just numbers. Past experiences can influence whether we tend to save, whether we tend to spend, if we avoid risk or feel anxious about money. Family and culture can actually shape what we learned early in life about debt, about work, about generosity, and financial success. Emotions can play a big role. Stress, somebody said it in the chat, boredom, fear, or even excitement can affect spending and our financial decisions. So let me give you an example. Someone might resort to ordering takeout after a long, stressful day because it feels easier than cooking, even, if they had every intention to save money this month. We're not gonna eat out. We're gonna cook every night. We're gonna save that money. Marketing, ads, social media, it can create pressure to keep up. And the convenience of one-click shopping, stored payment methods, easy access to credit can make spending feel almost effortless. And when we understand what is driving that decision, we're able to pause and choose whether that choice supports the goals we care about. It's so easy, isn't it, just to go through a drive-through and pick up dinner. Somebody else cooked it, somebody else is cleaning up after it. All we have to do is take it home and eat it. So those pressures, right? Let's take just a minute to think about our own money habits. First, what do we enjoy spending money on? For some, it could be maybe traveling, it could be dining out, it could be the hobbies that you have, it could be home projects, technology. A lot of people love technology. Gifts for family. Maybe you're just a generous person and you love to gift people. Maybe it's experiences with friends. There is no right or wrong answer. The point of all of this is just to notice where spending feels meaningful or enjoyable to you. Now, think about which money habits are already working well. Maybe saving automatically, paying bills on time. Maybe it's comparing prices before making a purchase, recognizing what we're doing well actually matters because these strengths can support the next goal. Finally, what's a habit we'd like to change? It might be making impulse purchases, or carrying a balance on our credit card, or maybe waiting until the last minute to prepare for an expense that we know that we're going to have. We don't have to solve it right now. This is simply a chance to notice, what's working, what matters to you, and where one small change could actually make a difference. Know what comes in and where it goes. This is so important. Let's connect that reflection to how our money is actually moving each month. We can start with how much is coming in, then look at how much is going out. That includes fixed expenses, that includes things such as rent or loan payments, more flexible expenses such as we all have to have groceries, dining out, gasoline in our cars. Everybody likes entertainment, maybe going to the movies or a concert, and periodic costs like those insurance premiums, car maintenance, school expenses, or even you may even have annual fees. Debt payments are part of that picture too, because they represent income that is already committed. Once we put all those pieces together, then we can see what is actually left over. That remaining amount is our financial margin. The room we have to handle, let's say, an unexpected expense. Maybe we want to use it to build a savings account or an emergency fund, or pay down our debt, or prepare for what comes next. At this stage, the goal is to understand the flow of our money well enough to see where we stand, where we may be able to create a little more stability. A useful spending plan is personal. A personal spending plan is most useful when it reflects your actual life. Start with the income you truly have available, not what you hope to earn or what you earned in an unusually strong month. From there, you're going to account for every single everyday expense. And you have to do it realistically. If groceries, transportation, childcare, or other costs are consistently higher than expected, the plan should actually reflect that. It's also really important to prepare for irregular costs, expenses such as car repairs, insurance premiums, school supplies, right? The summer is flying by. It's already July. Holidays, those annual fees. You might have a homeowner association fee that you have to pay, but they are still part of your financial picture. A strong spending plan should also reflect your priorities, right? That may mean making room for savings, maybe debt repayment, travel, family support, or another goal that is really, really important to you. Because life changes, and we all know change is the one thing that happens consistently, and most of us, it's the one thing that we reject the most. The plan needs to be flexible. Income, expenses, responsibilities, goals, they all shift, right, over time. The goal is not to follow someone else's formula. No one's financial picture is going to be the same. It's just not. It is to create a plan that is realistic, it's useful, and it's sustainable for you. It doesn't have to be scary. It's just something that's going to allow you to know exactly what you have coming in, what you have going out, and what's left over. And that's the fun part, figuring out what you want to do, right, with what is actually left over. So let's talk a little bit about security. You know, the next step is building greater financial security. Somebody said something about peace of mind. There is no better peace of mind than being financially secure. You know, it begins by creating more support around your day-to-day finances. That can mean setting money aside. It could mean reducing costly debt and making more informed decisions about when you borrow and credit. The goal is to become less dependent on each paycheck, not living paycheck to paycheck, less vulnerable to unexpected expenses when they happen, because they're always going to happen, and just being more confident in your ability to handle financial demands as they arise. So in this section, we're going to focus on building savings, strengthening your financial cushion, and managing debt and credit in ways that support greater stability over time. Not all savings are going to serve the same purpose. Emergency savings are there for those unexpected expenses, such as a major repair, medical bill, temporary loss of income even. Sinking funds are for costs you know are coming, even if they do not happen every single month. And some examples might be, you know, insurance premiums, vehicle maintenance, school expenses, holidays, travel, or annual fees. You know, goal-based savings are tied to something you are actively working toward, such as maybe it's a home purchase, maybe it's going back to further your education, maybe you're going to move. That's very costly, or another, you know, personal priority. Separating these goals can make saving feel more manageable and help reduce the temptation to use one pool of money for everything. The exact setup can be simple, but the purpose really honestly should be clear. So build emergency savings in actual stages. Emergency savings can feel somewhat overwhelming when the goal is presented as one large number. A more practical approach is to maybe build it in stages. The first stage would be like a starter cushion, you know, enough to help cover a smaller unexpected expense without immediately turning, you know, to credit. And then from there, you could maybe work toward a larger reserve that could help with a major repair, maybe a medical expense, or temporary interruption in your income. Over time, Some households may aim to build several months of essential expenses. The right amount will vary based on income stability, your household size, insurance coverage, how many dependents you have, and any other responsibilities that you may have. The important thing here is to begin with a realistic first goal, and then you're going to build from there. Progress matters more than reaching a perfect number all at once. It really does. So let's talk about the cost of credit. Building an emergency can reduce the need to rely on credit when something unexpected happens, but credit may still be a part of your financial picture. And the way it is managed can either support your financial security or it can make it harder to strengthen, just depending on how you use it. The true cost of credit is not just the balance you see today. It includes the interest rate, any fees, how much you're going to pay, how long the balance remains, and how much of your monthly income stays tied up along the way. Those pieces all affect one another. It is a full picture once you have all that. A higher rate means you're going to pay more interest, and it can be added to the balance. A smaller payment may feel more manageable in the moment, but it's definitely going to extend the payoff time and increase the total amount paid. Fees can add to the cost before the balance has meaningfully declined. And the longer that debt remains, the more of your income is committed to past spending instead of availability for savings, current needs, or future priorities. That can reduce the financial breathing room we have been working to create throughout this section. That does not mean credit is always harmful, and not trying to say that at all. It means the cost should be understood. The repayment plan should be realistic, and the option you choose should help reduce pressure over time rather than actually add to it. One of the clearest ways to see this is just by comparing the same balance at two different interest rates. So on the next slide, we're going to look at how much of a difference a lower APR can make. So important. This example shows how much APR can affect the cost of carrying the same balance, as you can see in front of you. We're just going to start with a $5,000 credit card balance and assuming a consistent payment of $200 each month with no new purchase added. So at the national average APR of, you see it, 23.79, the balance would take almost 35 months to repay and cost approximately $1,900, almost $2,000 in interest. Let me just say it that way. So look at it at 11.75 variable APR. That same balance and payment would be paid off in about 29 months with approximately $763 in difference. That's a difference, you guys, of about little over $1,200 in interest and roughly 6 fewer months of payment. So the APR absolutely matters. The starting balance did not change. The monthly payment did not change. The difference was the APR, which allowed more of each payment to reduce the balance instead of going toward interest. For someone already carrying a higher rate balance, moving that balance to a lower rate card could actually help reduce the cost and create more room in your budget. Balance transfer fees matter too, because an upfront fee can reduce some of that potential savings. So here at the United States Senate Federal Credit Union, our Smart Rate Visa is currently the 11.75% variable APR with no balance transfer fee, absolutely none. So there's no upfront transfer charge added to the balance, which most credit card companies actually have. I want to make sure that you know that this is just an illustration. Actual results will vary based on the rate received, balance, payment amount, and account activity. But the broader lesson, it's very, very clear. Lowering the cost of existing debt can help more of your money go toward reducing the balance. and over time, free up more room for savings and those other priorities that we've been talking about. Save, pay debt, or invest. So many different decisions. Many people are working toward several financial priorities all at the same time. You may be building savings, you may be paying down debt, you may be contributing to retirement or preparing for other goals. There is no single order that works for everyone. Start by considering your most immediate financial need. If you have little or no emergency savings, we are always going to say start there first. Building a starter cushion may need attention before directing every extra dollar elsewhere. And then next, look at the cost of your debt. As we just saw, the higher interest balance can absorb more of your money over time and limit the flexibility available for other priorities. So retirement savings, also deserve consideration, especially if your employer offers that matching contribution. That match can make it worthwhile to keep at least some retirement saving moving forward while you address other needs. And finally, think about timing. A goal with a near-term deadline may need a different strategy than one that is, maybe several years away. The goal here is not to choose one priority forever. It is to decide what deserves the most attention right now, while recognizing that saving, paying down debt, and investing may all move forward together. So now let's transition to consistency. Consistency is also going to be very, very important. It's where financial intentions begin to turn into actual progress. In this section, we're going to focus on setting clear goals, choosing realistic timeframes, and creating those habits that make it easier to keep moving forward over time. Love the SMART goal diagram. Once you know what you're working toward, the next step is going to be to make the goal clear enough to guide your direction. A SMART goal is specific. Instead of saying, I want to save more, identify what you are saving for and how much you need. It should also be measurable so you can see whether you're making progress or not. That might mean tracking an account balance or, a debt balance or a monthly contribution. The goal should be achievable based on your current income, what expenses you have, and what other responsibilities you need to include. That does not mean the goal cannot be ambitious, but it should be definitely realistic enough that you can continue working toward it. It should also be relevant. The goal should support something that genuinely matters to you, not something you feel pressured to pursue because other people are doing it. It's only going to make sense and be rewarding if it's a goal that is important to you. And then finally, make it time bound by giving yourself a target date or time frame. A deadline can help turn a general intention into, a more concrete plan. SMART goals can be used at every stage of the financial freedom ladder, whether you are building starter savings, paying down costly debt, increasing retirement contributions, or maybe just preparing for a future opportunity. Financial goals can take different amounts of time to reach, and the timeline matters because it can affect how much you need to save, where you keep the money, and how you prepare. Short-term goals are generally expected within the next probably 1 to 3 years. These might include building that emergency fund, taking that vacation that you've been wanting to take, paying off a smaller debt, or making a planned purchase that you need. Medium-term goals may take a little more time. We typically say 3 to 7 years. Examples could be something like You might need to, you're going to need to replace your vehicle, saving for a home purchase or down payment, completing a degree or certification, or like we said earlier, preparing for a move. Long-term goals generally take, we say typically 7 years or more, and these often include retirement, funding education, paying off a mortgage, or building long-term financial independence. These time frames are general guides rather than strict rules. The important thing is to understand when you expect to need the money so that you can create that realistic plan, choose, an appropriate saving strategy, and track your progress along the way. What are you working toward? Now take a moment to think about, what are you actually working toward? You may have a short-term goal, such as building that emergency savings, paying off a smaller debt, or maybe planning for an upcoming expense that that you're going to have. A midterm goal might be replacing a vehicle, that move that that you're going to be making, continuing your education, or maybe even saving for a home. A long-term goal is going to include, like we said earlier, retirement, paying off a mortgage, or building that financial independence. You don't have to have, this is the good news, you don't have to have every detail figured out today. Start by identifying one goal in each time frame, and then ask yourself, which one needs my attention the most? Which one do I want to, put first? That may be the goal with the nearest deadline, the greatest financial impact, or even the one that would create the most stability and flexibility for you. Choosing a priority does not mean ignoring your other goals. It simply helps you decide where your focus is going to be, your next step. Put consistency to work. Financial progress often comes from systems, not willpower. Automatic transfers can move money into savings before you even have time to spend it. Split your direct deposit can send part of each paycheck directly towards your goal. And regular retirement contributions can help build that long-term asset gradually, while scheduled debt payments can keep progress moving consistently. And more than likely, you're never going to miss it. When income increases, consider directing part of that raise, that increase, toward savings, toward your retirement or your debt, before the extra money becomes part of your everyday spending. The amounts do not have to be large to matter. What is most important is creating that routine that is realistic enough to continue over time. Just those small steps. Consistency helps turn good intentions into progress, even when life is busy. We all have good intentions. Our mind has good intentions, but putting it into play, even when life is busy, will absolutely turn into progress. Let's talk about growth. Growth is about using the stability, that security, and that consistency you have built to strengthen your future. In this section, we're going to focus on putting today's progress to work through long-term saving, asset building, and choices that can create more opportunities over time. Value versus access. As we start thinking about long-term financial growth, it's really important to recognize that value and access are not the same thing. Cash and liquid savings are available for current needs. They can help cover your expenses. They can use them to respond to emergencies or support a near-term decision. Investments and retirement accounts may support those longer-term growth, but they are not always designed for immediate use. Their value may change over time, and accessing the money may involve things like taxes, penalties, or other restrictions. Home equity can also contribute to your overall financial position, but it is not cash sitting in an account. Accessing may require selling the home or, borrowing against it to get that equity out. And the same is true for other assets. They may hold meaningful value to you, but, converting the value into usable money might take time. So a strong financial position includes both resources that can support you today and assets that can help build for your future. And that distinction will help us better understand how income and savings and assets and liabilities all come together to shape net worth. So from income to net worth, income is the starting point. But long-term financial strength depends on what happens after that money comes in. So some income is used for everyday expenses. Some may be set aside for savings, where it remains accessible for near-term needs and those goals. Other resources become assets, such as your retirement accounts, your investments, home equity, or property that may hold or grow in value over time. Liabilities move in the opposite direction. They represent what you owe and reduce your overall financial position. And when you subtract liabilities from assets, that's where you're going to get your net worth. Net worth is not the same as income, and it's not always money you can access immediately. It is a broader measure of what you have built over time. And the goal is not simply to earn money. It is to gradually direct more of what you earn towards savings and assets while reducing those liabilities. And that is how income can begin to create lasting financial strength, which is always going to be our goal, right? Let's talk about flexibility. Flexibility is the point where financial progress begins to change what is actually possible. It means having more room to make choices, respond to change, and move forward without every decision being driven by immediate financial pressure. And in this section, we're going to look at how financial flexibility can open new possibilities and help you move forward with greater confidence. One of the clearest benefits of financial flexibility is really having more room to act when an opportunity comes along. So having money set aside may make it easier to change. Let's say you want to change your career. Maybe you want to relocate, continue your education, or buy a home. Or maybe support someone you care about or pursue a personal goal. Opportunities like these often come with upfront costs, changes in income, or decisions that need to be made really quickly. And when financial resources are available, those choices can feel more realistic and a lot less stressful. That is why savings are not only about preparing for emergencies, they can also give you the freedom really to move towards something very meaningful to you. So financial freedom is not simply being ready when something goes wrong. It's also being in a stronger position to say yes when the right opportunity appears. Financial flexibility depends not only on the resources that you build, but also on how well those resources are protected. And that may include protecting your income, maintaining appropriate health coverage, safeguarding your home and property, planning for family responsibilities, and securing your accounts and personal information. It's also important to review your beneficiaries and keep key financial and legal documents current, especially after a major life change. The goal is not to eliminate every possible risk. There's no possible way to do that. It is to reduce the chance that one setback could limit the choices and opportunities you have worked to create. As we come to the end, remember that financial progress is not defined by one number. It's not defined by one account balance or one perfect decision. It may begin with stability, when essential expenses feel more manageable and day-to-day finances feel less uncertain. It may grow into security as savings increase and costly debt begins to lose its hold. It becomes consistency when helpful habits are no longer something you have to keep starting over. They become part of how you manage your money. That's progress. And over time, that supports growth as assets and net worth begin to build. And ultimately, it creates that flexibility we talked about, more room to make decisions based on what matters most to you rather than immediate financial pressure. And that is what meaningful progress looks like. Not perfection. You don't have to be perfect. It's not overnight change, but greater control, stronger choices, and a financial life that gives you more confidence about what comes next. Create your financial freedom plan. We have looked at what financial freedom can mean, how progress builds over time, and how each stage can create more control, more confidence, and choice, right? But information alone does not create change. Progress begins when you take what you have learned and you apply it to your own financial life. So now you're going to want to ask yourself, where am I now? Where are you now? Be honest about what is working for you, where you feel that pressure, that stress, and what needs your attention most. Then you're going to want to define your next milestone. Not every goal at once. The one that would make the greatest difference in your life right now, right at this very moment. And then next, you're going to want to identify what could stand in the way. Name it clearly, put it on a chalkboard, put it on a piece of paper and post it everywhere in your house, put it at your kitchen window, put it on your refrigerator. Name it clearly. A vague obstacle is hard to address. A specific one can be planned for. Then choose the action you're going to take and make it clear, make it realistic. Use that SMART goal. Put a date on it. Financial freedom is not built by waiting until everything is easier. It's never going to get easier. Take it from me. I've been younger longer. It is built by taking the next right step with the resources that you have right now. As you decide what comes next, remember that you do not have to navigate every financial decision on your own. Here at the credit union, and our trusted partners offer all different types of support depending on where you are and what you are working toward. Green Path Financial Wellness can help you with things like budgeting, debt management, your credit, and other day-to-day financial challenges. Fellows Financial Group offers guidance for long-term planning, including investments, retirement, estate planning, broader financial goals. And the Financial Wellness Center on our website gives you access to articles and calculators and educational tools that you can explore right at your own pace in the comfort of your own home or wherever you wish to access it. And whether you are on your financial journey, there are resources available to help you take the next step with a lot more clarity and a lot more confidence. And that is the whole reason why we bring these webinars to you. We want you to be financially well. We want you to, build financial freedom with small steps, with more choices, and just be confident in that. And we want to say thank you for spending this time with us. We truly hope that this evening's conversation helped you see financial freedom as something personal, practical, and built one step at a time. And we really appreciate the opportunity as your financial institution to support you. And now we are going to open the floor for any questions that you may have. And we hope and pray that you have a safe and happy 4th. So thank you for being here.
All right, Kev, thank you so much for another amazing presentation. We really hope that our attendees were able to take something away from it. I really love, I know it may sound a little cheesy, but like the SMART goal, right? I mean, that's being able to track any of the goals that you set in mind. What is a goal if you don't actually have a plan behind it, right? So doing that, setting up those SMART goals, it truly goes a long way. But most important, everyone has a different meaning of what is, financial freedom, right? So financial freedom for some, may be totally different to what it means to somebody else. And it also depends, on where you are in life as well, too, right? But one thing for sure, and that's the message that you want to leave you here is that whatever the stage that you're in life, us here at the credit union, the United States NFL Credit Union, is to assist you no matter where in life you are and what type of goal you might have set, and also what financial freedom means to you. So if you have any questions, any comments, anything that we might be able to assist you, please give us a call, 800-374-2758, and choose option 7. And you can just say either my name, Kim Spridley's name, Jernica Trent. Heck, if you want to talk to Carrie, I'm sure if you say her name, it will get you connected to Carrie as well. But again, thank you all. This has been an amazing presentation, and let's see if we have any questions in the chat or the Q&A, Carrie.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. That was great. So I see with prices going up, would you recommend temporarily lowering retirement contributions to make your budget easier to manage?
That is a great question because I am at the age I am. I've been younger longer. I said that earlier. And because I am looking forward to retirement, my answer would be absolutely not. Make that money, make those contributions, those matching contributions work toward your retirement because more than likely when you retire, things are going to be even more expensive. I don't know how the panelist team feels about what I just said. I'm giving you my own personal where I am today. I have actually started a second job. It's a hobby, selling antiques and vintage items to help with the rising costs. That's not always reasonable for everyone, but just try really hard to do that budget, write down what's coming in, what's going out. You have to be so specific right down to that cup of coffee or that pack of gum that you choose to get to. Maybe breakfast at Chick-fil-A and, maybe just rearrange something. Take that small step and you're probably going to see more money coming in that you could pay towards the rising increase in everything, groceries, gas. And I'm going to let the panelist team share too. That's just my personal thoughts.
Yeah, and I was going to say I second what you said, Kim, as well too. I mean, it's we all know for sure that where the economy is today, it's prices are continue to be on the rise, and we know we oftentimes we just gotta make sacrifices is what I would be the best way to put it. I think I saw somebody there making a statement in reference to keeping an eye on those delivery companies like their DoorDash, Uber Eats. I know the convenience is there, but trust me, it can add up. Going out and buying a Starbucks coffee versus maybe making it at home, or if you go to the office and the office provides you with coffee, why not use that and drink that. but again, you know, it all depends also where you are in life, right? Like Kim was saying as well too. It really comes down to what, you know, financial freedom means to you and how you choose to you know, to manage your finances. You know, we are going to give you a biased opinion here in Lorraine. I just feel that because we work in the financial industry. So we don't just preach it, but we live by what we preach here at the credit union. And that's one of the things that, again, you know, we've been in your shoes. We know, you know, what are some of those things that if you're not strict, if you don't have the discipline, and you don't create the plans, you know, it can be tough. But I'm much of a visual person. When I create my budgets, um, you know, 50, 30, 20 rule that I don't recall if we talked about this on during this presentation. But again, I'm a big believer of that, and having that roadmap, if you will, tells me, you know, what I need to do to get from point A to point B. And so, you know, creating the budgets, again, it sounds very old school, but trust me, it worked back then and it still works today. But that is just my humble opinion. Carrie, anything you want to add to that?
Well, it's funny because I actually just did that because everything gets so hard. My student loans went up, but I do always hear that we're not supposed to do that. Um, but I'll put it back. And somebody in the audience commented, and this is kind of a good way to think about it. I ask myself this question: what am I willing to do to secure my financial future? So that's some reframing. Um, we have one other question, and I don't see any more. So if anyone has any others, throw them in. But the last one I see, Milton, is, or Kim, how do I know which debt to pay first?
That's a great question. I can start it, Kim. I'm sure you're gonna follow it. So our advice will be, well, the advice that I will give you is what I like to call the snowball effect. Gary, I'm sure you know you remember this term, we used it before. And that is that you start tackling the well, either or, right? Because you can either start tackling the debts that have the highest interest rate and then build that momentum, and then you just keep you know, paying off everything else that follows that. And I know that that could be a little intimidating. So if you want to do it the other way around, where you pay off the smallest debt and then that builds the momentum because you're going to have extra money to pay for the next debt with a higher interest rate, then you can do that as well too. I know a snowball is where you start with the little bit with the smallest depth, and then you move all the way up, and then there's the avalanche, right, Carrie, if I'm not mistaken. And so again, it's but my recommendation is always pay off whichever debt that has the highest interest rate, because most likely any payments that you're making, I can guarantee you that more like more or less 70 or 80% of the payments that you're making is going towards interest, and only about 15 or 20% is going to the principal of the amount that you actually owe. So why not try to get ahead of that so that you can, you know, give yourself a little bit of something to celebrate, if you will, so that way you continue the momentum and pay off what's behind that. But that is just my approach. That's normally what I implement to my in our household.
Thank you, Milton. And that was all of the questions that I see. Oh,
Cool.
is
Short
Kim
and sweet,
on?
I guess. Kim, you're on mute.
Which would mean I interrupted you. I'm so sorry, Kim.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all. Yes, I'm on mute. But I really wasn't saying anything. I'm all about the snowball effect. Milton, you nailed it. I would also say, you know, take a look at what debt you have. Look and see if you have some of those high interest rate credit cards. It's going to take you a really long time to pay those off, especially if you're just paying that minimum balance. talk to one of our amazing USSFCU loan officers and see about getting our card. It's a much lower rate than what the average national rate is. There's no hidden fees. A lot of credit card companies, if you make a late payment, they're going to hike that APR up. So the first thing I would do is if you have credit card debt, come talk to us. We might be able to save you money, and you might be able to actually take the money that you're saving, add to your payments, and pay that off a lot earlier. And you talk about peace of mind and less stress. There's nothing that will give you more stress than having credit card debt.
Absolutely, Kim. And you know what? It's. I guess you're reading my mind because that's the great segue to our webinar for next week. The topic for next week is actually credit cards with confidence, right? It's not just credit cards, but actually credit cards with confidence, smart use and stronger credit. So we're actually gonna do a quick, well, not a quick. We're gonna do a webinar all around our credit cards here at the United States Senate Federal Credit Union. Because oftentimes, people may not look into what are the benefits that you have by having a credit card here with the United States Senate for Credit Union. Other than, I mean, I'm sure Kim already gave you all a quick preview. She was telling you a little bit about the interest rate. And for us to be in the low teens, I'm talking about 11%, compared to the national. But again, the average rate throughout the nation, you'll be surprised. But I don't want to get too deep into it because Carrie's about to hang me if I do. Because we want you to come back and join us next week as we talked about all the useful tools that you can take advantage by exploring the credit cards here with the United States Senate Federal Credit Union. And especially the one that really gets me, it's like Kim was saying, it's when you miss a payment, and oftentimes, credit card companies will entice you, will tell you, hey, come and join us, get this credit card, no interest rate for X number of months, and you're gonna love it. But the moment that something goes south, they're not gonna love it. Well, they will love it, but you won't love it. I guess what I was trying to say. So join us next week. It's gonna be a fun one. And with that being said, Carrie, anything else that you wanna share before we wrap her up?
No, well, the webinar too. So we're going to go over our credit cards, but it's also going to get into reading the statements, catching those hidden fees, understanding the fees and the terminology and APR. So I'm really excited because you get all those credit card offers in the mail. And we've always talked about doing one where we rip apart another company's credit card offer, the fine print, and we're going to dissect it and talk about it so we can all understand it. So it's going to be pretty great, or I'm hoping. So that's it for me,
Well,
Milton.
I know it will because you're making the content, so I'm for sure that it will be. And we always find a way to make it entertaining for everyone. But most important, leave you with something for you to take away, which is again, it's the financial education. The reason why we brought in, we established a weekly Wednesday webinar. That's the end goal, is to give back to all of our members, but not just members, but actually to anyone that finds the type of information that we share here every Wednesday night beneficial. So with that being said, thank you all. Have a wonderful 4th of July. We hope that you enjoy this beautiful weekend, and then we'll see you back again next week on Wednesday at the same time. Let's have a great evening.
Good evening.